in self-unfoldment, we are currently now in chapter 19. And chapter 19 is called meditation. So if you see, our last class, chapter 18, was on sadhana, was on all the things that we need to do to prepare to be a seeker. Now, what happens is, for most of us, this is the case. We listen to Vedanta. So we go through the full Shravanam. And we also discuss with each other. We also clarify, we remove doubts, and we gain some kind of clear idea of this knowledge. But what remains is we're just unable to live it. We're not able to live this knowledge. We're not able to manifest and abide in it. And it's because this last process called nididhyasana is missing. This nididhyasana is what we're referring to as meditation. So Shravanam, Mananam become clear, because we do it. We are able to do it. We are able to listen. We are able to reflect. We are able to remove doubts. But this meditation aspect, what is it really about? What does it really involve? So as I said, the Sanskrit word is nididhyasana, and then it will be samadhi. And the English word we're using is meditation, as per chapter 18 in self-unfoldment. Now, many people say that they meditate. Many people say that every day we meditate, we sit down. But what do actually people do? Is it really meditation or is it something else? And Gurudev says most likely it's meditation. Most likely people sit down, but they don't know what's going on in their heads. They're either thinking about someone, they're thinking about something, they're thinking about their to-do list, they're thinking about all the things that they have to accomplish. And so they're thinking about this whirlwind of ideas and thoughts, but they're sitting quietly. So it's sitting quietly, but the mind traveling noisily. That's what people call meditation. And many people say, I meditate every day. I meditate twice a day. I sit down for 20 minutes. But what's really going on is not meditation, it's meditation, right? And many people also feel that they have to order some nice soft cushion from Amazon and put some nice incense on and get the music into a certain mood to meditate. And so they feel like that's also meditation. So it's become more of a fashion. It's become more of this thing that people do. And people also do it for this purpose of it lowers my blood pressure. It makes me look young, so I want to meditate. It releases me from stress, so I want to meditate. And while all these things do happen, these things are actually a natural byproduct of meditation, but this is not why a seeker meditates. What is meditation in Vedanta? Meditation is the art of quietening the mind and transcending the mind. It's got two parts. The first part is quietening the mind. The next part is transcending the mind. And most of meditation today will just deal with quietening the mind. So we miss out on the latter half. So this is meditation. Now, why meditate? So the purpose of meditation is not to lower blood pressure or to, relax, but really the purpose of meditation in Vedanta is to abide in the self, to abide in the non-dual self. Because as I said, we gain this knowledge from Shravanam and Mananam, listening and reflection, but we're not able to really hold on to it. We're not able to practice it. And the reason is because of our vasanas. Our vasanas, or our deep-seated impressions, are present in our subconscious mind. And the knowledge that we gain from the teacher and the scripture is in the conscious mind. So you can just imagine, in my conscious mind, I know I'm not the body, mind, and intellect. I know that I am pure awareness. I know this in my conscious mind, but in my subconscious mind, because of so many lifetimes of feeling like I'm the body, I'm the mind, I'm the intellect, I still feel like I'm the body. I still feel like I'm the mind. I still feel like I'm the intellect. I still feel like I'm this ego. So therefore, that knowledge which is in the conscious mind has to now be made much deeper. It has to be made a vasana. It has to be made something that penetrates the subconscious mind. So it's not just a conscious knowledge, but it's a subconscious awareness. It's not just some surface level thought, it's a deep abidance. And that process of making this thought very deep so that we are able to abide in it, that's called meditation. It's abiding in the self. That is really the depth of it. So we have seen what is meditation, and we have seen why to abide in the self. Now, who is it that meditates? So number one, a person who is self-realized may meditate. They don't have to, but they may meditate to just be in themselves, just abide in themselves, just be, because it's their natural way. That's what they naturally just want to do. And so they may meditate. And also for a realized person, their life is a meditation. Because it's not only that when they're sitting quietly and abiding in this knowledge that they are meditating, in and through their life practice, that meditation goes on. That awareness of who they are, it goes on and penetrates their life. So one time somebody asked Gurudev, how often do you meditate? And he said 24/7, because that awareness is there throughout. Now, what about for a seeker? A seeker is the one who meditates to abide in this knowledge, because abidance is not there yet. And for many of us, that's the case. Now, who is the seeker who can meditate? So in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, it gives 3 qualifications of the seeker who can meditate. The first person who can really sit down and meditate is the one who has fulfilled their dharma. That is the first criteria. Because everyone has our daily duty. Everyone has our dharma. And when we do it and perform it in a selfless way, in the spirit of karma yoga, letting go of whatever the results are, the mind is peaceful. But if we have not done our dharma, then the mind is agitated. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, I have to go here. Oh, I have to go there. The mind becomes agitated. It cannot be quiet. Or if we have done our dharma, but not in the spirit of karma yoga, why didn't he recognize me? Why didn't she say anything? I did so much for him or her, but she didn't do for me. I gave so much, but they didn't give me. All of these things will be so much clutter in the mind because one hasn't performed their dharma effectively. So even just to sit down at the seat of meditation, number one, I have to perform my dharma. And therefore, karma yoga is an essential step to anyone who wants to meditate. Anyone who's meditating without doing karma yoga is not really meditating. It doesn't work, and you can try it. So the first essential quality is one has to have fulfilled their daily dharma. The second essential quality is one has to live a life of moderation. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, it says so clearly, the yogi is the one who doesn't eat too much or eat too less, doesn't sleep too much or sleep too less, isn't overactive but isn't also underactive. The one who is yukta. Yukta means the one who is moderate. If we eat too less, we'll be thinking about food at the seat of meditation. If we eat too much, we'll be way too sleepy. If we sleep too much, we will be so drowsy. And if we sleep too less, we will fall asleep. And if we are too active, if our day is too active, it's not going to work. The mind is going to keep running. You'll experience this. And if we do too less, we will feel we need to move. We can't sit. So one who is able to moderate their life, and therefore the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, it comes into play here, where one is really working on their yamas and niyamas. One is really working on their daily routine, how they wake up, how they invite the day, how they eat, how they conduct their activity. This, if one is able to do well, then one can really sit and meditate. Otherwise, it will be difficult. And of course, I mean, I'm not saying here, but exercise is an absolute must. Because if one doesn't exercise, that's why for Ashtanga Yoga, it says first, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, right? For one who does some practice of yoga asanas or walks or some kind of exercise, they'll be able to sit with their back straight and sit still. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. The third qualification is somebody who doesn't have any sankalpa. What is this sankalpa? It really means first, the one who doesn't have outgoing desires or tendencies. If there's, so, we may do our dharma well. We may perform our dharma, maybe we've got that figured out. And we may have a daily routine that we're adhering to. At a time where we wake up, what we eat, how we conduct ourselves. But yet inside, some desires still linger. Desires of name, of fame, of money, of power, of pleasure, of the pleasure of an experience, of wanting something. These desires that come from inside prevent us from meditating. What happens is we end up meditating on those desires. When am I going to get it? What will it be like if I get it? What if I don't get it? What is it going to be like? And our mind gets so incredibly clouded. And these desires come because of this term called sankalpa. Sankalpa means a fanciful imagination that something or someone or some experience can give me permanent happiness. Sankalpa is that imagination that if I get this experience, I will be very happy. If I'm able to be with this person in this way, I will be happy. If only this person changes their attitude, they just change one or two things about themselves, I will be really happy. And this is what makes us desire, because we're seeing happiness in there. But little did we know, whatever we can get from people, from places, from experiences, is just short-term pleasure. But yet we still desire, we still want, we still hope that we will get long-term bliss. So that sankalpa makes our mind extrovert. It makes our mind want to go out in the world and interact with the world. But if we don't have any such sankalpa, that anything outside can really make me happy, then guess what? The mind is ready to sit within. The mind is ready to come within because it knows that the source of happiness is here and it has no doubt about it. So a seeker who has these three qualifications can actually sit down effectively. Otherwise, we can sit down also, but it won't be effective. But a seeker who has these three, perform their dharma, lives a life of moderation, doesn't have any such sankalpa that the world outside will give me so much joy, that person can sit down quietly. So now we've seen what is meditation, why meditation, who can meditate. Now we'll go and see, where does one meditate? So many of our scriptures will say in the cave, near an ocean, near a body of water, or in a temple. But really, the way we are situated right now is find a space and place in your own home where you can sit and do it. And that's why I had encouraged the children to build an altar, build a place where they can just be, so that this is your own place, this is your own corner. It cannot be that every time I change and every time I do, sometimes I do it here, sometimes I do it there, sometimes I do it there. It doesn't work because, whenever we sit in a place constantly, consistently, it develops an ambiance. Like when you go to the kitchen, you feel like eating. You just go in there and you feel like eating. You feel like opening the fridge. You feel like looking at what's there. When you lay on your bed, you feel like sleeping because that's what you've been doing there. So the same way, when I have a steady place that I've put in my home, that I've situated in my home, when I sit there, I will feel like actually meditating because I've been doing it for a long time now. And that place also develops that vibration. And where, one can be seated in an asana, like a mat on the floor, or if one doesn't feel too comfortable on the floor, then can sit on a chair, but not lean back on it. The premise of meditation is always that the back, the neck, and the head are in a straight line so that all the energy channels are open. And then it comes to, what time am I supposed to do it? Well, the ideal time in our scriptures is Brahma Muhurta, which is at 4 a.m., between 4 a.m. to 6:37 a.m. That's the ideal time because that's when everyone's sleeping. Everyone's sleeping. The whole house is sleeping. It's just you and God. It's just you and your time with God. And that time is incredibly precious. If you and I are able to do this every day, it doesn't matter for how many minutes. We will start short, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But if we're able to do this, it makes a big difference in the way our lives run. You see, many people say, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time. I have so many things to do. You have no idea what my life is like. It's just so much, and I have no time to meditate. Well, everyone who's saying that they don't have time to meditate is like trying to chop a tree with a blunt axe. When we chop a tree with a blunt axe, it takes a very long time to chop that tree because the axe is so blunt. And so that is why we have so much work. That is why there is so much there, because the axe is so blunt. When we meditate, we actually sharpen the axe. We actually sharpen the axe so that if we were to chop a tree, it will take half the time or even a quarter of the time. It will just chop it off like that. The axe is our mind and the tree is our work. And so people who say, I don't have time, it's like taking that mind, which is not sharpened, not alert, not vigilant, and doing work. Of course, we're going to have a lot of work. But if we take even 10 minutes whatever I've just done with the children, even if we take that much time and we meditate and we do our work, I promise you, you will do it in half the time because so much more alertness will be there. So it's not an excuse then. It's actually efficiency. I mean, the true purpose of meditation is abidance in the self. But if I have to get you to do it to tell you it'll make you more efficient, then okay, it will make you more efficient. Okay. Now we go through the process of meditation. How do we actually start this? So I've gotten the whole picture. I know what I'm supposed to do. How do we start this? We start by the practice of japa. Japa is preparation for meditation. We can sit and meditate. Don't get me wrong. It is possible for very few people. It's possible for very few people to go directly into meditation. Because if the mind is single pointed enough and ready enough, you can go there. But for many of us, or most of us, that's not the case. So we start with the process called japa. And this I've explained extensively in the children's assembly. And this is why I want all of the children to take up this practice so that when they go into meditation, it becomes so much easier. And in the practice of japa, you'll see we do, certain things. Like the first step is that we make sure that the body is straight, we're sitting straight, and we start with 3 ohms. And the second step of japa is we really relax our body from the feet to the head. Some like to do from the head to the feet, but we just relax our body to make sure that physically we're okay, we're in good shape, and there's no discomfort that we are feeling. The third step of japa is really just to focus on the breath, and that's what we do. And the fourth step is to invoke Guru and God's grace, because without Guru and God, nothing's possible, nothing works. So it's building that connection with them. The fifth step, which I tell the children then, is to look at their altar. So that's why I had asked to build an altar of your Ishta Devta, your personal God. Now, if you feel that you don't have a form of God that you connect to, or you don't really connect with forms, even Om, that's enough. Om represents God also. So whatever it is that you connect to, whomever it is that you connect to, have that form in front of you. Have that form so that you can look at that form at eye level. And the next step then is to invoke that form, that sound, that mantra into your heart. That's step 6. And step 7 is to just chant that mantra. Whatever mantra it is, but keep the same one. We don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, what about this God? And what about that God? And what about this goddess? Just take one and keep one. One name is enough to liberate. Like we saw in Hanuman Chalisa, or devata chittana dharahi, anumata se sarva sukha karihi. Means if you take up Hanumanji, there's no need to take up anybody else. If we take up Goddess Durga, there's no need to take up anybody else. Because that God or that goddess is enough, is actually more than enough. So we chant that mantra. We can do 1 round of japa or 2 rounds of japa. Then after that, once the mind has been made focused, has been made single pointed, that's when we go a little deeper. So this japa is just preparation. We haven't meditated yet. It's just preparing the mind. The next step, when the mind becomes quiet, we bring to the mind the knowledge of the self, or what we call the Mahavakyas, such as, I am pure consciousness, right? I am Sat Chit Ananda. I am existence, I am consciousness, I am bliss. I am infinite. So in Sanskrit, these terms would be like Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. This Atman is Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. One then needs to bring the knowledge to the mind. And when you bring this knowledge to the mind that I am Brahman, I am bliss, I am consciousness, I am unaffected, I am untouched, I am unfazed. When we bring this knowledge to the mind, it's not repetition like japa. It's not like Om Shri Ramaya Namaha, Om Shri Ramaya Namaha. It's not like that. The idea is not to repeat then, the idea is to contemplate. So you take up that one mantra, let's say, I am Brahman, and you just think about it single pointedly without any such distraction. When we start off, what will happen is the mind will be distracted. So we will have, I am Brahman, and then the mind goes out, out, and then we bring it back. I am Brahman, and the mind goes out, out, and we bring it back. And that's why we start with japa, so that we are able to build that continuity. If we don't have the practice of japa, we don't start with japa, our contemplation will be very futile. We will say, I am Brahman, and then go out. I am Brahman, and then go out. It doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So contemplating then on that Mahavakya is contemplating single pointedly in a single thought flow with full understanding and feeling. So as I said, you can take up the Mahavakya, you can take up a mantra, you can take up a verse that you like. You know, many people like this Nirvana Shatkam, which says, Manopodya Hankara Chittani Naham. Says, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not this ego. And finally, it says, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. I am that pure awareness. I am that pure consciousness. So one takes up a verse, one takes up a mantra, one takes up a statement. It doesn't have to be in Sanskrit. It just has to speak to you in a way that you truly feel and understand, and in a way that we're negating all of the things that we're not. We're not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the intellect, not the ego. I am just that pure self. That's what happens. That's how we contemplate on the self. That's how that thought becomes subtle. That's how the thought becomes deep, because it's full of feeling. After some time, when we are contemplating, what happens is effortlessly it will happen. In the beginning, it will take a lot of effort, as I said, to put the mind in the knowledge, to keep the mind on the self, to keep the mind going steadily in a single flow. It will take effort. But after some time, it will be effortless. It will just go on and on its own, without us even making effort. And it's almost like the meditator gets lost in the meditated. Like how a singer gets lost in a song, or like how a painter gets lost in a painting. Like that, the meditator gets lost in the meditated. And that is what is called in Sanskrit as samadhi. Samadhi. When the mind is completely absorbed in the self. There's no more such effort that I'm doing anything. It just automatically happens. And that is actually meditation. It's not a verb per se, but it's a noun. It's what happens. It's a state of being for a seeker. And this is how to go about it. This is how to do it. So one starts from that simple practice of japa. And then after one round or so, bring that knowledge to the mind, that I am this pure awareness, I am this pure bliss. Bring that knowledge to the mind and sincerely focus on it. Sincerely focus on it, sincerely contemplate on it, feel it. And then after some time, you will find that the mind just gets absorbed in it. The mind just gets absorbed in that self. And we are ever still. That is called abiding in the self. That is true meditation. So this is, and having been there, then don't think about anything else. Just be. Don't say like, oh no, what to do now? That's another thought rising. Having been there, having been to that state, just remain, and just be. This is the state where there's nothing to do, there's nothing to be, there's no one to see, there's just being. This is what it is. Now, a few things I will mention, and then we will see if anyone has any questions. A few things to mention here. When we sit down to meditate, the first thing we have to do is let go of all of our identities. So don't sit as a mother or as a father or as a husband, or as a wife, or as a worker, or as anything, because you meditate on that. So when you're sitting, sit as a seeker. Sit as a seeker of truth. Because otherwise you'll carry the whole office, the whole family, everything with you. When really in meditation, it's about letting everything go. The second point is that wake up early enough so you don't have to set an alarm. The worst thing that we can possibly do is say, is it 20 minutes? Yeah, I gotta go. I only have 20 minutes to sit quietly. Then the whole time you're meditating on when is it 20 minutes? I hope I don't miss that 20 minutes. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. So get up early enough so that we can do it leisurely. It is a thing that we should also just enjoy. It shouldn't feel like such a chore that, I gotta do it. It should be such a joy that I am so happy I have to do it. So give oneself enough time. And the third point I want to say, what Gurudev also says in this chapter, is regularity and sincerity. No matter what, just keep doing it. Some days it won't be good. Some days it will be really good. Because it also depends on, we will find that when we are more active, when we're doing too many things, it will be a little bit harder to meditate. But when our mind is pretty still, when our life is pretty calm, it will be easier to meditate. When we find that we are exposed to such disturbing things all the time, it will be more difficult. That's when we find that we are surrounded by a lot of peace and harmony. It will be easier. So don't worry about it. Some days will be a little tougher. Some days will be a little easier, but just sit and do it. And at the same time, at the same time, same place, because that gives strength to it. It's just like, if you eat at the same time every day, your stomach already knows that at this time I'm hungry, I need to eat. You don't even have to tell it. The same way, the mind will already be ready to be quiet. You don't even have to tell it. So To start with, if one can do, at least in the morning once, at least for 10 minutes. And if you can do a little bit more, then do once in the morning and once in the evening, around 5:36. This sunrise and sunset, these are very powerful times of the day. Okay, so I'll just summarize and then we'll see if anybody has any questions. So we saw, what is meditation? Meditation is the art of quietening the mind and transcending the mind. What is the purpose of meditation in Vedanta? The purpose of meditation in Vedanta is abidance in the self. Where can one meditate? In one's own home. Fix a nice, quiet place and meditate there. When? I've already told you, early morning Brahma Muhurta is the best time. How does one do it? It's always best to start with the practice of japa, because japa cultivates a single-pointed mind. Without this practice, it becomes difficult to meditate. People claim they meditate, but they meditate on food, on experiences, on other people, on events, but they don't meditate on the self. So it's not really meditation. So if we want to really do it the right way, japa is how to start. When one gets better and better in japa, what to do? Spend little time in silence after the japa. And when you spend little time in silence after the japa, what do? You bring the knowledge of the self to the mind. That Mahavakya, I am Brahman, I am pure bliss, I am pure awareness. Bring that knowledge to the mind, that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm just that pure self. And contemplate on it. It's not repetition, it's contemplation, where you're really feeling every single moment of it, complete understanding. What happens after this contemplation? The mind becomes silenced. In the beginning, it's a lot of effort. After that, it's effortless. The mind becomes silenced and it is absorbed into the self. That's when the mind is actually transcended. It absorbs into the self and one remains as they are. And having reached that state, don't do anything, just be. And come out very naturally. And as you come out, don't go right to do so many things in the world. Just ease into the day. And if we say, oh, I don't have time to do this, then remember, if we say I don't have time to meditate, it's like doing all of our work with a very blunt axe. But if we actually even just take those 10 minutes out, it will sharpen our minds so incredibly well that everything will be so efficient in our lives. Okay? So now we will stop here. And if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask questions. So what is the definition of abidance in the self? The definition of abidance in the self is number one, okay, when one is sitting down quietly, abidance in the self means that the mind is absorbed in the self, that the mind is completely absorbed in the self and the mind remains there. Now, second point, abidance in the self in our day-to-day life. What does that mean? That means there's an effortless awareness of who we are. There's an effortless awareness that we are pure consciousness and pure awareness. Just like how now we think I'm a woman, I'm a man. Nobody has to tell us I'm a woman and I'm a man. Nobody has to tell us. It's so natural for us, right? And the way we live our life is based on I'm a woman or I'm a man, or I am Hindu or I'm not Hindu, or I am Christian, or it's so natural. We live life according to whatever identity we take on, right? And it's natural. Nobody has to tell us anything. One who has effortless abidance in the self, they live life based on I am pure awareness. That's their primary identity. Nobody has to tell them anything. So in and through their transactions, in and through their living, they are ever in that awareness that they are the pure self. And they never take themselves to be anything other than that. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So one of the qualifications for someone who wants to meditate is to complete their dharma. So when, dharma is always going to go on and on. We're never going to be free from duties. But at least for that day, I have completed, or the day before, I have completed my dharma. One of our Gurujis says a very nice thing. He says, the softest pillow is a clear conscience. What is it that really can put us to sleep? Is a clear conscience, because we feel like throughout the day I have done whatever I'm supposed to do and I've done it well, so I can sleep nicely. 6-7 hours, I can sleep straight nicely. Like that also, if we're meditating in the morning, the day before, whatever I've done well. I've done well to the best of my abilities. Therefore, I can sit nicely. Otherwise I come up with these thoughts that, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I could have done that. Oh, I forgot to do this. Oh no, what will happen to this? These thoughts unnecessarily will come into the mind. So that is why when we live a pure life and we try to complete our dharma, our daily duties, to the best way we can, then meditation becomes much easier. Yeah, that's a good question. You see, yes, some meditation techniques, yes, they say, focus on the breath and, use the breath to bring your awareness towards it, to be aware, to become aware. That's a good practice also. But why we recommend japa is this, right? You can use that. You can use observing the breath, watching the breath, provided you go towards the knowledge of the self, provided you go towards bringing that knowledge that I am Brahman and I am pure awareness. Why we say to use japa is because japa does two things. When we observe the breath and we watch the breath, it makes us single pointed and it makes us aware. But when we do japa, it makes us single pointed, but it also divinizes that mind. You see, when I'm saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, I'm becoming single pointed, but also the qualities of Shiva is coming to me. So it has it has double effect. But when I'm just focusing on the breath, I am becoming more focused. I am becoming more aware, but that divinity is not necessarily coming to me. So you can use that. You can use observing the breath, provided you go up to I am Brahman. It leads to that. So that's a good question. See that the word sankalpa has different meanings depending on the context. So like when we were doing Gayatri Japa, we would say, take a sankalpa to do 108 japas. Don't move until you do that. That is, when we take sankalpa in that meaning, it means firm resolve. And that is perfectly okay. But sankalpa in the context of chapter 6 of the Gita, which is what I've explained to you about the seeker, sankalpa in that context means fanciful imagination, means thinking that one can really gain happiness by this particular object, by this particular experience or person. Then that is something that we are supposed to let go of. So it says nisankalpa. Right. So, so how do you pick which mantra? How do you balance? So one is that everyone has or might have what we call an Ishta Devata, that form of God who's really dear to them. That can be something that you just connect with that form of God, you just connect with that being, or it can be something that was given to you. So if that's the case, if you have, or what I was telling the kids, MPG, you use that. Now we have also been doing Gayatri Japa. So maximum, you can keep these two mantras. Don't go more than that. So Gayatri Japa is something maybe you can do in the morning, and you can do your Ishta Devata in the evening and in the night. Like that, you can do it that way. But don't go more than that. Minimum is at least have one mantra that you're holding on to. And you can pick, you can, whatever works for you, that's what you do. Is that clear, Shubha? Okay, all right. Yes, Krishnaji. Can you unmute?
While I was reading in this book, they say you start chanting and suddenly you put a sudden stop. Why?